Let's get in here with Adam from California. Is an atheist, pronouns are he, him, goes to church with a friend and wants to know how to start a conversation with them about changing their beliefs in a respectful way. So, Adam, what's going on?
Hey, Matt. Honored to be in the show. I've been watching you guys for years. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, the college community did a good job. My friend I've known since elementary school is devout Christian. His family's like, his dad's like the youth minister, like music director and everything. And he had like, I mean, at first I never even thought about like trying to talk to him about his religious beliefs because he's been pretty hard setting it. But
Sure.
last year, or maybe the year before, he had some tough times and started kind of doubting it. But I guess he's like stronger in his beliefs now. But I mean, if he doubted it in the past, I was maybe wanting to bring up conversations with him again because he's a pretty logical guy, and I thought maybe I could talk to him about it and kind of see if he cares more about if his beliefs are true, or if he just cares more if, or just wants to be Christian because it's how he grew up. I'm not sure, and I just wanted to know your opinion on how to bring that up.
What would you do, Paul?
Well, I would probably start with some of the things you already said. So there's certain ways to sort of street epistemologize this whole thing, and where one of the great questions is, do you care if this is true? Because that's actually a really great starting question, because some people literally don't. I've had Christians tell me it's not super important because it's the club I belong to, and we're all in this club, and I like the benefits of the club, and I like the people in it. So whether it's true is secondary for me or not. So if that's the case where your friend is, which is what you alluded to, well, then probably having all those other conversations are just going to annoy you both. If he does care if it's true, then you can actually probably have him walk you through the process by which he determined that it was true. Because if you're just throwing stuff at the wall, you may not be getting to the heart of his issue. So have him build you that positive case. And if you see problems with that positive case, that's a good time to gently point out, oh, well, is that a good way of knowing whether that is true or not? For example, depending on what they say. So having your friend sort of lay out the case is going to be more effective than sort of saying, hey, let's have a debate whether God's true or not, or I think that Christianity is stupid. It doesn't. If you called in to ask advice, I'm not guessing that's where you're going. But anyway, that's where I would start. Matt, where would you start?
Yeah, I think if the person's reasonable, logical, generally speaking, and you're in a position where you guys realize that you value each other and you value the friendship as well, then it seems to me that just saying, look, I'm not trying to make things difficult or give you a hard time. I see you making decisions and believing things that I don't understand. And if you're open to talk about them, then I'm open to talk about them. And if you're not, that's fine.
Yeah, we've kind of talked a little bit on it. Like I said, I've been watching the show for years, and I like used a few of your guys' examples. Where I asked him a little bit like, hey, like, do you think I'm going to hell? Like, and kudos to him. He agreed. Like, yeah, like, I made the comparison. Like, what was it with Dahmer, where he asked forgiveness and all that, if he was going to heaven or hell, and if I was going to heaven or hell. And he said, yeah, well, if he honestly asked forgiveness, he's going to heaven, and you don't believe, so you're going to hell. Wow, that's you see the problem with that. It's like, yeah, it's unfortunate, but still it is. Like, God, like I don't know. Yeah, it's just a hard topic.
Yeah, for things like that, it's quite often the case where they're going to be like, look, it seems wrong to me. I don't understand it, but I'm a fallen creature, and God knows and understands these things better than I do, and so I have to just trust that God's doing the right thing by saving a mass murderer who sincerely repents, on a deathbed confession and conversion, while sending someone else who's lived a generally good life and never done that harm, sending them to hell. It doesn't make sense to me, but I'm going to trust that God does it. And when I hear that, I'm like, why? If it doesn't make sense to you, and it seems like it's immoral to you, if it seems like this is the worst option or a worse option, what reason do you have to trust that there is a God and that God is getting this correctly? Wouldn't it be better to say the only information that I have about a God comes from men who are fallible and biased, and God hasn't shown up to correct any of this. And so if God's unwilling to correct this, then there's only a couple options. Number one, those men got it right, and God is not going to bother to correct something that's right. Or those men got it wrong, and then we must say, why is God not correcting this? Is it because he's got something better to do? Is it because he expects you to figure it out on your own? Is it because he doesn't exist? Go through the various reasons. And if you don't have a good reason for picking one of those, how can you possibly be sitting here looking at someone who just says, hey, I don't see a good reason to believe. And in addition to not having a good reason to believe the basics that there is a God who's doing this, also what you're telling me God does seems incredibly immoral and problematic to me. Those two things combined certainly give me pause. And I don't understand why they don't give you pause. What piece of information, what fact or bit of evidence do you have that I don't? And because that should be, if you and I agree that this would be immoral under any other circumstance, what piece of evidence do you have that I'm missing? Make them make the case. Because if they're sitting there struggling with the same things you are, I'm an atheist in part because I had to sit here and try and figure out how to make the case, because I knew I was going to be asked these questions by my roommate or by anybody else who I was out, preaching or proselytizing to. How do you justify, I'm not a big fan of the problem of evil, but I know many people are, and I know it's very compelling to many people, and I know they're going to address it. And so make them defend it. And if at the end of the day, all they can say is, I can't really defend it, it's just how I feel, then to me, the follow-up question at that point is, how would you feel if I told you I believed in a different God who was going to torture you forever without believing, and that I had no evidence, no reason, and it's just the way I feel?
Yeah, and I mean, I brought up Sam Harris's thing about how statistically we should both expect to go to hell. And I mean, I've brought up like slavery in the Bible, how like, what's the reason God has for allowing that? And it gets to, oh, well, that's Old Testament, that doesn't count. It's like, where does it say in the New Testament that Old Testament just doesn't count anymore? Like, come on, dude. But I can't really like push that with them because, like I said, I don't really want to be offensive. I don't know if the call screener said it. Whenever I have a day off on Sundays, I usually go to church with them just out of respect for their family, just because they helped me through some hard times, and they're all great people.
Actually,
so it kind of makes me want to like talk to them like, hey, I go to church with you, do your thing, the music's fine, cool, whatever. We get lunch after, like, maybe do you want to call into the line or Atheist Experience or something one of these days, just to talk to people, because I don't want to like push that. I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to strain the friendship or anything, but like if you can talk to other reasonable people and get them to sincerely question his beliefs, like I think would be a healthy thing for anyone to do.
In that case, Adam, you got to make up your mind.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, you keep going to church with him, so you keep doing the thing that he wants to do to advocate for this, and you're probably sitting there giving him hope that one of these days at church you're going to have that come to Jesus moment.
No, I've 100% told him, like, there's 0% chance I'll ever come. I literally just go with him. He's the drummer at the church. I go to support him. We hang out and get lunch after. Like, I've made it very clear to him that I'm not. He told my girlfriend about this dream he had, where I guess he like took a bullet for me, and it was like, he's like, I don't know why I did it. I think just because I want to give him more time to maybe convert. And it's like, bro, there's no chance. Like, I don't know. It's such a weird position to be in.
You can tell him all you want that there's no chance. First of all, I wouldn't be saying there's no chance. I'm open to being converted just as soon as there's evidence. But you can tell him all you want, and I can tell you that if he's a sincere believer, then he has to believe there's a likelihood that you will be saved, because he has to believe that God is there, wants you to know he's there, and if you will just, blah, 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 blah. This is, you are either chosen or you're not. You're either going to get saved or you're not. It is, but if you think that your friend doesn't hold out hope that you're going to get saved and spend eternity in heaven with him, I don't know what to tell you. That sounds almost as delusional as what he actually believes.
Yeah. This is like the
Yeah, I
guy
see
who
what
had a
you're saying.
crush on a
I guess
girl in high
I do
school and their
know.
friends.
My
What was
mom is
that?
convinced. My mom was convinced that God was going to give me and Beth a miracle baby that was going to bring us back to Jesus. And now that Beth and I have been divorced for a few years, we're still friends. I can I can say with 100%, well, 99.99999% confidence, Beth will never be pregnant by me. And I'm unable to have kids. And so the notion that and yet still, there's nothing that's going to stop my mom from believing that, someday God's going to bring me back to the fold. And there's other people who believe that. And maybe it'll happen, but I don't know. It seems to me like if you're looking for a way to challenge him without challenging him, you're looking for a way to potentially
Hmm.
get him to consider stuff without having to worry about potential negative consequences. Sorry, that's not the way it works. You may be able to get him to rethink stuff and he may change his mind, but it's not up to you to change everybody's mind. But you may be able to get him to do that, but there may still be consequences. And any attempt you make could come with really bad consequences. It, I don't see how you can have it both ways.
Yeah, I guess I just want to, because I've had these conversations with him a little bit, but then it always comes back to like some kind of wall like that where it's like, no, it's Old Testament. It's like I push against it, but it's like I can only push so hard without like coming off
Yep.
as like rude or whatever. Like,
Well,
what's the word?
then, and
Yeah,
it seems to me one of the things is it's not your job to change everybody if you're not willing to
yeah.
take the steps that are going to be required to potentially change somebody's mind. You should go watch Frozen and learn to let it go.
Yeah, I suppose so. And yeah, I totally feel exactly what you're saying. It's like my mom is exactly that way. It's like, oh, you'll come to Jesus, and it's like, look, I might have believed this when I was like, fall. I stopped believing when I was like in elementary school when I actually learned what God even is. I mean, I sincerely doubt it. Like I said, Brown's down to zero. But yeah, I mean, I every once in a while I try to bring it up when he seems more open to it, and I might have him call the show or something and see someone else can kind of talk to him about it. Because I don't know if I said it already. He was questioning his beliefs and kind of on the fence for a while, and I was like, okay, like
Yeah.
maybe, but it wasn't the logic side of it. It was like it was the emotion side of it. Like, oh, could God let this happen, kind of thing. So I don't know.
Just be there, be the guy's friend. He knows you don't believe. It's not your job to change everybody's mind. Let him know you're open to conversations. Let him know that you want to be respectful about it. Let him know that, if he has questions that you'll try to answer, or you can direct him to some other people who potentially do. But then, you're there for him, not for Jesus. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I have a friend who's going through something incredibly difficult right now. And I only know about it because of a mutual friend, because this person, the person who's going through something, we haven't spoken recently. And it's not that we haven't had any falling out. It's just, I got lots of friends. Well, I was going to say, I don't think I've spoken to Paul since the last time we've done a show together, but that's not true because Paul just took me up the other day. But it might be weeks or months that Paul and I go without talking to each other. And yet I always know I can reach out and Paul will get to me when there's time. And Paul knows the same thing at me, with respect to me. Making sure that your friend knows that. When I look at my friend who's going through something difficult, I only know about it because we have a mutual friend right now. And I've been sitting here for about 3 days debating, do I reach out to this person? Because on the one hand, I'd like to let them know and remind them, hey, I love you. You're a friend of mine. If you need to talk, I'm here. You don't have to talk to me. I'm not trying to pry. On the other hand, the mere fact that I know things through a secondary source that they may not have wanted. I mean, I'm sure that they figure out people talk, but they may not have wanted certain things getting out. And all it would do is add more pressure to them to be like, oh, great. Now I'm going to have to talk to Matt too, or I'm going to have to talk to this person too. And so there's a fine line of me trying to decide, how do I let somebody I love and care about know I love and care about you and I'd be happy to talk to you about this without saying, ooh, I know you're going through something you haven't told me yet. And right now, I'm erring on the side of we've had a long relationship. If they wanted my input, they should already know that all they got to do is ask for it. Pretty much anybody who's a friend of mine knows that if they really want to know what I think, all they got to do is ask me, and I'm going to fucking tell them. And so, because of that, I'd rather be the person who they can reach out to without getting anxiety about what they're currently going through. Let me be
Normalcy.
the less complicated person in their life. Did we lose you?
Yep. No, I'm sorry. I've just been making sure you're finished.
Yeah,
I get that.
and
And like I
everything
said,
else.
like we're really close friends. So it's like it's always just been like a thing where, if one of us is thinking it or feeling we're just hanging around talking, it comes up every once in a while. But I've gotten kind of as far as I want to go with it, and then we're both cool.
Yep.
Like he knows I'm atheist, he's cool with it. Like whatever. Like I know obviously he's Christian, and I'm cool with it. It's fine. It just, I guess honestly, it does kind of deep down annoy me a little bit with like the little things like down the street, like church music we play, and he'll like step outside to listen to it. It's like I don't know, just like little things. It's like yeah, no, it's fine. Like, I'm not gonna be overly aggressive and like how dare you believe, but it's just weird to me like when like his brother or someone would talk to me like at one point I kind of debated his brother a little bit about it, and he's like, well, atheists use faith too. Like, how do you, when you sit in a chair, like you have faith, it'll support you. And it's like, no. When I was
No,
a
I don't.
baby, I saw people sitting in a chair, and I sat in a million chairs that looked like that in my life. So I have evidence from experience and witnessing that it'll support me. And sometimes I'm wrong, and I
Not
sit in
only
my chair
that,
and
but
break
every
foot.
time I sit
Like,
down, every time I sit down in a chair, I do so knowing that the chair could give way. Just my
yeah,
my my confidence in the chair is proportional to the evidence that the chair is likely constructed in such a way as to support my
yeah,
girth or my mass, not girth.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. I've had those conversations with him, and it's like it's so disrespectful. It's like to me, where it's like, what do you mean? Like no. And it just feels like sometimes I'm like the third wheel of like, oh, he doesn't believe in this. Like atheists all have faith, and atheists do this. Like, are you what? And I guess he held to the position like atheists have like are all hardy atheists where they know that God exists. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm not taking that position. I can't prove to you that God exists, and you can't prove to me he does, or vice versa. I can't prove he doesn't exist, and you can't prove he does. So I'm withholding my belief, and until you can prove he exists, I don't believe. So I'm just wondering how that's the illogical position to be in. Like treating me like I'm illogical. No, but I don't know. It gets a
You
little
don't
annoying,
need
things like
to
that.
stay in a relationship that is abusive, though. I mean, I'm not saying this
It's
is
his
like abusive
brother.
in a
I've had more issues with his
no,
brother, with his little
so
brother.
then set boundaries. Then it's like when the brother comes over, obviously if you're in shared spaces or whatever, but it's better to set boundaries on this stuff than to take on whatever angst it is that you're going about, that you're going to have these conversations. So either
Mhm.
either you're allowed to openly gloves off have these conversations if the brother is coming gloves off, or you don't have the conversations. Like that sounds to me like
Yeah,
if that you need to decide, back to
I'm.
a little while ago, decide which it is you want. And even if it's not with your friend, even if it's with your friend's brother, it's like, okay, if it's gloves off, it's gloves off, or we're
Mhm.
leaving it alone. Because this
Like I'm
constant
perfectly
jabbing at
happy
you,
having
that's
debate.
not good.
I love having debates. Like I'm great at debating, and I point out I just use logic, and it's like how do you beat me? And I use perfectly sound logic. So I'm perfectly fine with it, and so I'm perfectly fine when he has these discussions with me. But it's just annoying when like he doesn't, or he'll make comments like that, and then I go, all right, let's put the gloves on, let's debate. Like here's why I don't have faith, and he goes, well, I'm sure there's other things. It's like, no, if you're gonna bring these up, you can bring these up. We can talk about it. Like otherwise, don't bring it up.
Okay, good.
Well, anyway, no, I mean I love you guys' show. I'm just super happy to call in. I watch you guys all the time. I'm subscribed on YouTube for both Paulogia and everything.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah,
Take care.
thank you.
Best
It
of
was an
luck. And
honor.
if you come up with a way where you find a more effective way to engage with your friend on this, let us know, because we're not going to have all the answers. I can only tell you what has and hasn't worked for me in different scenarios.
Yeah, I figured you guys were the ones to talk to with the experience. Maybe I'll even have him call in, hopefully, if he ever agrees to that.
That'd be
I'd be
awesome.
happy to talk to him. Take care.
Awesome.